Are you totally unable to watch the news anymore? I got you. I follow the news so you don't have to, and I summarize it in 5 minutes or less every day. Follow me to get in your feed. After just a Hanukkah length of time, 8 days, Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his nomination for Attorney General, stating that it was, quote, unfairly becoming a distraction. He had met with Republican senators earlier this week in hopes of winning their votes. We all see how that went. If you were surprised by how quickly Gaetz went down, it could be due to the fact that just minutes before he announced that he was dropping out, more reporting emerged that the House Ethics Committee had been told of a second sexual encounter that Gaetz had with the 17-year-old, specifically a threesome involving another woman. I'm sorry if your children are listening to this, but I didn't nominate the guy. Less than 8 hours after Gaetz's announcement, Donald Trump threw out his second choice, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. She was also Trump's attorney during his first impeachment trial in 2020 and currently leads the legal arm of the America First Policy Institute, which you might remember I mentioned yesterday as Linda McMahon's new think tank. Regarding another of Donald's cabinet picks who also has some unsavory allegations swirling around, Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, a detailed police report was made public on Wednesday. A woman, we'll call her Jane Doe, told police in 2017 that she was assaulted by Hegseth while they were at a Republican women's event in Monterey, California, where Hegseth was a speaker. She was there with her husband and 2 children and met Hegseth in the hotel lobby with a few other people, after which she says she believes she was drugged and that he took her phone and refused to let her leave his hotel room, and that he forced himself on her. Part of her story was corroborated, the part that happened in public, by a hotel employee who saw them arguing near the pool that evening. She was paid an undisclosed sum as part of a confidential settlement, which he claimed that he signed to avoid a lawsuit. At the time, Hegseth was going through a divorce with his second wife, who filed for divorce after he had a child with a Fox News producer, who is now his third wife. Another pick for Donald, who just makes perfect sense. We also have a brand new role for this administration. The Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives, led by Republicans now and next term, says that it plans to form its very own new subcommittee to work alongside the new Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, which will be efficiently co-managed by the duet of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The chair of that new subcommittee will be none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she will be tasked with leading the committee to align with the administration's cost-cutting priorities. If you're curious what those are, I would recommend reading the co-authored op-ed by Musk and Ramaswamy in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week, where they laid out their vision for cutting government spending and firing swaths of federal employees. Anyone who's ever heard a tech VC pitch anything can guess how specific this op-ed was. As we see Donald is taking his mandate for leadership very seriously, we actually have the final popular vote tallies, with over 99% of all ballots counted from November 5th. Kamala Harris did not do as badly in the popular vote as early results suggested, with Donald Trump coming in just under 50% with 49.9% of the votes to Kamala Harris's 48.2%, a difference of about 2.6 million votes. Harris earned 74.3 million votes to Donald's 76.8 million, a smaller gap than when he beat Hillary in 2016. Overall turnout in the election was 63.7% of eligible voters, which is lower than in 2020, where there was 65.8% turnout, but still higher than any other election in the past century. We have a bunch of big international stories to end the week, starting with Coup Beat Brazilian edition. Former President Jair Bolsonaro, along with 36 of his current and former aides, were indicted for attempting a coup to keep him in office after he lost the 2022 election. Brazil's Supreme Court will now decide whether to refer the charges to the Prosecutor General, who will then either toss the charges or formally charge Bolsonaro and put him on trial. I hope they're not looking at us for a model of how to handle that. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants yesterday for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif. The warrants state that there was reason to believe that Netanyahu and Gallant have intentionally targeted civilians and have used starvation as a method of warfare by restricting humanitarian aid. Deif, the head of Hamas's military wing, is accused of murder, rape, and torture of hostages, which amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. I should add that Israel also claims that they have killed Deif in a military strike during the summer, though Hamas maintains that he is alive. In reality, none of them are likely to actually face arrests or judges at The Hague, though the threat of arrest could complicate travel, as the EU's foreign policy chief has said that the warrants are binding on all of its 27 member countries. No summers and Ibiza this year. Over in Iran, the regime announced that it plans to open a treatment clinic for women who disobey mandatory hijab laws, which require women to cover their heads in public. The announcement was made by the head of the Women and Family Department of the Tehran headquarters for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, no fun, who said that the clinic will offer, quote, scientific and psychological treatment for hijab removal. In a totally unrelated story, the parliament in Iraq has recently proposed a bill to lower the age of consent from 18 years old to 9, which would allow grown men of any age to marry and have sexual relations with girls 9 or older. And by age of consent, what they really mean is the man's consent without any legal liability. And finally, Pope Francis has announced plans to name the world's first millennial and digital saint. The late Carlo Acutis, who died in 2006 of leukemia, will be canonized in April. Informally known as God's influencer, he was a web designer who documented miracles online and volunteered to maintain websites for local Catholic organizations. The church has attributed 2 miracles to him, but has not detailed what they are. I want to know what the miracles are. I also want to know who pitched the idea of a digital saint at what I can only assume was some sort of papal roundtable, scheduled to discuss how to refresh the church's brand among Gen Z audiences.